Welcome everyone to my conversation today with VERNICE, FLYGIRL, ARMOUR. She's been speaking for a long time, but she's new with DN and want to welcome you. VERNICE.
What's up? Well, you already know that I am a little different. So I wanted to give folks a little taste of how different I am, just like set the mood for a second. Because you know we only have 10 seconds to bring people in, right?
We are.
Yes, I am playing Lovely Day by Bill Withers, Studio Rio. Why? Going through especially when we got social injustice going on, chaos at the Capitol, an economic recession for Main Street, and a global pandemic. That's right. And I'm playing Lovely Day. Why? Because it's up to the people we're putting in front of our clients' audiences to create that picture of the lovely day on the other side. That's why they're bringing us in, right?
There you go.
Lovely day. All right. So there you have it. That's why I'll come on with some mood music and have people throw their cities in the chat, and you'll be like, oh my God, I love this already, because it's different, and that's what we need today. Right?
Right. It is what we need. And you got to start off by telling yourself it's going to be a lovely day in spite of all of that stuff.
Bam. That's right. That's right. How are we going to create the breakthrough?
Absolutely. In this business, it's a survival skill for agents to be able to compartmentalize the speakers that are out there. Someone says they want a leadership speaker, innovation speaker, whatever. We have our go-to list because we've compartmentalized them. And I was an agent for 42 years, and that's a really helpful skill. It's also a huge blind spot because, we're working with human beings, and human beings are broader than the way we might compartmentalize them. So, when we started to work together and I started going through the onboarding process with you, of course, everyone knows you are America's first Black female combat pilot. That's the top line.
Yeah.
But then there's everything else. And, it is everything else that makes you. It brings so much diversity and diversity of thought to the audiences that you're talking to. And I mean, just to bring people up to speed, because I learned so much as I was onboarding you, some of the firsts, and I may miss something, so you'll let me know.
Yeah.
First Black female Nashville motorcycle cop. First Black female police officer in Tempe, Arizona. First in your class at flight school. And actually, if you took the 200 people who preceded you, you were first ahead of them as well. I mean, you were an absolute star in flight school.
I was a Marine, of course.
Of course. First Black female Marine Corps pilot. And at Camp Pendleton, you were named Camp Pendleton Female Athlete of the Year. Twice won camp's annual Strongest Warrior competition. And this is not a first, but it's incredibly cool. Running back for the San Diego Sunfire women's football team.
That's my Heisman right there.
There you go.
Yes. My dad played for the Colts when they were back in Baltimore. I always wanted to play football. He had a Pop Warner team. He said I could be a cheerleader. That lasted all of 5 seconds. And I was like, no, this cheerleading is not for me. So when women's professional football came around, I was on that field, Bubba. Dad wasn't there to see me, but I know he would have been proud.
What years did your dad play with the Colts?
We didn't really talk a whole lot about it before, but it was like back in the 50s. Right. And he was a walk-on, and, he wasn't a star player or anything like that, but just the fact that he was on the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut. The Baltimore Colts were my favorite team because a local station carried them. They were the champion team back when Johnny Unitas was quarterback. And so because they were always winning, they were carried by a local station there. So I became a Baltimore Colts fan, not a New York Giants fan. There was no Boston Patriots.
Right.
Back in the late 50s. So I am, the Baltimore Colts have a place in my heart for sure.
Good.
So you've got all this incredible background And then as I'm going through all of the background about you, I'm finding out that you were also diversity officer for the Marine Corps, reporting, I think, to the Pentagon for some time. Talk a little bit about that role and what that entailed.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it was a surprise for me to end up as a diversity officer, right, under the Equal Employment Division. And I'll be honest, in the very beginning, I was pissed. I'm like, I'm a warrior, I'm a trigger puller. How to end up in equal opportunity? They're like, well, they wanted a Black female. I'm like, I'm the only one. How equal is that, right? But after I got there and I saw the work that was really being done, the reason I hadn't seen a Black female pilot growing up, right, because of access and exposure, and seeing the Black female in a flight suit planting the seed in me, it was full face that, wow, I could be this to others and help create an atmosphere where women and minorities actually get access and exposure to careers in the STEM field, right? So as a diversity officer, I was over 220,000 personnel organization, and I was on a committee at the Pentagon that was creating diversity policy for all of the armed services. So outside of the compartments of Black, woman, gay, I, as an experience, right, I also had the academic background because I went through diversity trainer and becoming a diversity practitioner and being on the work side of diversity. So it was an interesting experience. Military and corporate America, we're still trying to figure it out, but we've come a long way. So it's cool being able to have both of those perspectives and connect the dots.
Absolutely. What was the biggest takeaway for you in that role, and how does that benefit you when you get into the conversations today that are happening, which are focusing on those same issues?
That's a really good question, T. My biggest takeaway, because I remember there were things that the Marine Corps wasn't doing and I didn't understand why, right? And I said, well, what do they really want? And I remember talking to a couple of colleagues. I said, but what do they really want? Because we put money behind this, we put money behind this, we put money, but if we really wanted it, we put money behind it. And when you look outside in corporate America and our organizations, right, associations, what we put our intention and our resources behind reflects what we really want. So it's the same thing out in corporate America. Are they looking for a diversity speaker, but they only have a budget of 2,000 because all the budget of the 150,000 went to the leadership and the sales meeting, right?
Right.
It's the same exact conversation.
Wow. And social justice, of course, last year, 2020, emerged out of the blocks in a very, very big way. In the speaking world, we've seen it change significantly, the kind of choices people are making about what they want on their program, what they want their program to look like, the kinds of faces they would like to have as part of their program. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Right.
And from a standpoint of opportunities that have come your way, have you seen a shift in the kinds of things that organizations that are coming your way and what they're looking for in terms of having you speak about in terms of issues?
Short answer, yes. I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to fight as hard to get on the platform in certain instances. I was delivering a workshop for a speaker organization, and one of the ladies raised her hand, and I called her, and she's like, yeah, but we're not hot like you. Like, you're Black, you're a woman, you're a vet, everybody wants you. And in that moment, I remember busting out laughing because I'm like, oh my, did she say you're Black, you're a woman, you're hot? And when I first started speaking back in 2007, I remember looking at those things as not advantages, but detractors. I had to fight to get out. Everybody wanted to make me a diversity speaker in Black History Month and Women's History Month. And I was like, what? White guys get all 12, but because I'm Black, I only get 2? So I had to fight to show my value, right, at a annual leadership or sales kickoff or anything outside of the box of what I look like in my story.
Right.
And whether it was becoming the first woman of color to ride motorcycles for Nashville Police Department or the pilot in the Marine Corps, I knew once I got in, I was gonna blow the doors off and their socks off, period, in the story. So whether it was an introduction from a friend or a call for speakers, it didn't matter. I am going to blow the doors off. So today, when I ask, well, what was it about me? You know, FLYGIRL, the brand, the messaging, they're like, well, you know, honestly, we love your energy. It jumps off the screen. You deeply customize your keynotes. I saw you at another event and I knew you'd be great here. And honestly, you know, we were looking for a more diverse speaker and you checked all the boxes and you're good, right? And so it was it's been an interesting turn of events and you know how it is now. But I think people are realizing that the more diversity they bring to the platform, not just because I'm Black, not just because I'm a woman, like I am an amazing freaking speaker that can bring it every time. Meeting planners know they don't bomb when I am on stage. And Black woman, gay, vet, mom. I mean, I might put me in the Asian affinity group too. I probably got some of that in there, right?
You know, and here's the thing. I mean, absolutely. You talk about energy, the energy watching you in person, the energy is extraordinary. And here's the really amazing thing. The energy in virtual is just as strong. It's just as amazing. You are authentic and you're a great communicator. And that comes across. And what I saw as I was going again through the onboarding process were all the testimonials that you've been getting since this virus thing started to break out. And people just raving about your energy and the impact that you had. That's not easy to make that transition and to come up with authentic energy and to have people really feel it right through the screen. You've done that. It's been amazing. How did you handle that transition? Because not everybody handled it well in our business.
You know, that's a big one. And I remember sitting on my deck when COVID first hit, and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because it wasn't in the very beginning. I said, oh, we'll get a couple months off. We'll be back in the fall, in-person meetings. This will be a little break off the road. And I very quickly saw every keynote in front of my face disappear. And we all knew that meetings weren't going to be coming back in person, right? Anytime soon. Right. And I said, okay, this is not just a matter of doing my keynote on camera. Like how freaking boring is that, right? I mean, that's the epitome of boring. And it's also not about just adding content, slides and content. I got to give them more because it's virtual. No, I really had to dissect energy and how could I leverage this platform. And in an audience of 10,000 people, the folks in the front row are 30 feet from my face and the people in the back row are looking at me on jumbotrons. They see this little bitty person standing up on the platform, maybe. And in this virtual environment, you are literally 1.5 feet from my face, right? And 10,000 people, I'm 1.5 feet from their face. So we now have the strategic advantage of intimacy in a way that we didn't have before. So when I say, you know, the music's going and I'm, you know, joking and they can see the expressions on my face 1,000,000 times more than they could in any audience, right? And I'm saying, put your city in the chat, and, you know, shout outs. And I'm like, oh, John from Austin, Amy from Texas, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, she called me out. You know, people are tagging and the energy just starts going, right? And people are feeling good. I couldn't do that in a keynote, right? Or if I say a certain point and I said, all right, if you agree with me, throw it in the chat. Or, you know, what do you think the #1 component was? Throw it in the chat. And I'm, again, shout outs. Oh, John says communication. Amy said blah, blah, blah. You know, getting these people feel like, which is why I don't call it a presentation and a talk. It's an experience with me, right? Just like going to the Gaylord. You don't stay at the Gaylord. You experience the Gaylord. They're fun, they're different, they're unique, every single one. And each presentation has a whole energy and personality of its own. And getting in there and really co-creating and amping up that energy with the participants. And they could be a group of accountants or engineers. This is going to be different for them because it's usually a talking head. It's usually just listen to whatever somebody's saying. And then we have a Q&A session at the end. And I wanted to figure out a way to disrupt that, turn it on its head. And I knew it would call for me doing some things that were out of the norm, that certain folks at first might say, what? But the next thing you know, it was so cool and amped up that it's like, oh my God, this is awesome. Do I think it's something every speaker could pull off? Up in the energy, yes. But we all have our different things, right? And do I see another speaker going out there and doing it just the way I do it? No, I'm Vernice, I'm FLYGIRL. I bring the energy. You know, folks know me for that, for people feeling good, for dropping the tactical takeaways and people feeling like they can go out and take action. Because I'm not a motivational speaker, right? I mean, that's the outside crap. The like coffee in a shower, you need it every day, right? Where inspiration, I feel inspired from the inside out. So it was an interesting challenge trying to figure out intimacy and engagement. And thank God I cracked the nut, because I'm a hugger.
And you know what, it works. And what's extraordinary is that it works whether it's an education group, whether it's a law enforcement group, whether it's those insurance people or accountants, as you were talking about, healthcare, whatever it is, you put in the time to get really connected before you ever engage the audience, whether it's virtually or in person. And it's clear that that's the case because everybody comments about it in the testimonials. So you've got magic. You've absolutely got it. You've figured out how to harness it, how to bottle it, and it works for you.
It's a lot of fun. If I could say one thing about that, the connection, I call that the connective tissue, right? Because when I spoke for FedEx, and I remember being out in combat, and it would take a month for a letter to get there. And I was talking to a bud, and I had no clue. In 3 days, this huge box shows up, and it even had chewing tobacco for me to bribe the guys with, right? I mean, like, it was amazing. In 3 days, I got all this loot. And when I told that story to FedEx, I mean, everybody were feeling it. It's amazing. I like your impact when it absolutely positively has to get there. I couldn't say that at the Plumbers Association, but I can talk about the time when my sink busted in, right? So how am I connecting the dots and creating that feel of family and team, right? And that's one thing as a cop and as a Marine and being in the military, that it's just natural. And I bring it whenever I'm speaking, it's we, us, not I and you, right? And people can feel that.
Well, we are so pleased to be working with you. And
that was good.
We really are. You know, it's an opportunity to help you bring your message to greater and bigger and more audiences than in the past. So in closing, before we sort of close out, anything that you would love people in our business, the agents who talk to customers, that they might not know about you? Is there anything you'd like to fill them in on that might be useful for them when they think about pitching you?
Besides the fact that I am obsessed with golf, so whenever we do get back to in-person stuff, put me in, coach, because I am ready for the golf tourneys, right? As that, you know, a lot of times we'll open up a conference or a leadership sales meeting. You know, I didn't think this was a big audience for me at first, but the technology folks, our chief technology officers, CIOs, the technology audience, right? When you look at my background, and yes, it's STEM, but also, you know, the platform that I've expanded to, right? The gutsy move in your gut, you know, it's right. It takes guts to do it, but you got to take action. And I talk about the guy with the magnetron, and it melted his chocolate bar. He puts a box around it, and next thing you know, we got the microwave. How are we meeting needs that our marketplace doesn't even know it needs yet? And so innovation, you know, thinking outside the cockpit, making the gutsy move, you know, it's not a haphazard move, it's calculated courage. And it's something I had to use all the time in the midst of combat, right? Being decisive in the midst of chaos. And I don't know if people readily connect me with an innovation talk or an innovation mindset, but it's one of my hallmark things, right? You're defining digital moments. And COVID was a big thing for digital and digital transformation for a lot of companies and organizations. So I would say that's probably the biggest that folks should really capitalize on, because those digital transformations or the lack thereof can sometimes sneak up on us and bite us in the butt Blockbuster, Netflix, Kodak, digital photography, right? Like what's today's version of that? And again, with the battlefield constantly shifting, the battlefield of life, whether it's the enemy, the situation, our plan, our strategic plan, our roadmap, our goals. Oh no, COVID hit. Now what's our contingency? I mean, all of that it's so juicy, it's amazing. And we can create the lovely day, you know, on the other side. And I love addressing that.
It's all about getting gutsy.
Boom, baba, gutsy leadership. Absolutely.
And that's the name of the next book.
It'll probably be the gutsy move or the gutsy executive, but I don't want it to be the gutsy executive. It's going to be the gutsy move because it's just like Brene Brown's book, right? Daring Greatly. Like now she has Dare to Lead, which is more corporate America. But the first one, whether you're an executive or you're a stay-at-home mom, you know, so many people resonated with that message. The same thing with the gutsy move. Whether you're a mom looking to re-enter the workforce, a mom thinking of, or want to be a mom and take time out, or you're a guy going for what it's not woman, man, it's who are you as a human being on this planet, and what's that gutsy thing itching to get out if you don't do it, right? It's that gutsy move. So it'll probably be that.
Fantastic. Well, let's make it a gutsy 2021. Looking forward to a great year, and thank you for being with us.
Hey, Tony, it's great to be a part of the family, and everyone watching this video or listening to the sound of my voice, I look forward to partnering with you as well. Stay gutsy. Oh, wait, and you know they're wondering what's on my t-shirt.
Yes, let's get that.
A closed mouth don't get fed. My granny always said that. So I have a bunch of grannyisms that I always throw in. I'm from the South. All grannies have isms. So there you go.
Perfect. Great way to close. Thanks very much.
All right.
Take care, Vernice.